Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. I'm your host, McCallion, here with another great guest to talk about how you can launch and grow your business. This week is Paul Tompkins from Flippin Experts. Paul, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic, Mal. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm in Florida, and I love hearing about where you're at and the weather over there, but man, I'm excited to be here today.
Genuine pleasure, and really excited to hear how you and your business has been launched and has grown itself. I'm slightly jealous of the fact you're in Florida, but we'll move on from that. So look, essentially what we love to hear about are people's launch stories, how they kind of got going, what gave them that push, that jump. So tell us a little bit about your history and Flippin Experts, which is a great name as well, by the way.
Yeah. Well, Flippin Experts is basically a company that we have a couple different facets, and one business ended up growing into 4 or 5 multi-million-dollar businesses, all within the same stream. But basically, we fix and flip properties, and we also have rental properties, and we also teach people how to do what we're doing. So there's a lot of different areas in that. We renovate other people's houses. That's a separate business. We stage properties. That's another business. We design houses and business. That's another business. But we stayed in the stream of real estate, right? We didn't bounce all over to 5 multi-million-dollar companies that are all different streams, and one's tech, one's that. I kind of kept our focus in something that we're good at and we're experienced at. And it's a crazy story how it came about, Mal. I'm a retired state trooper in the state of Florida. I'm a retired Marine. And everybody's like, well, how did you get into this then? Like, how did you, like, I have just a weird story in it. It started when I was a state trooper. I was like, man, this is dangerous, which I love danger. I love chasing people. They give you a gun and a fast car. I was like, this is awesome. But like 7-8 years in, Mal, I'm like, man, I'm working 40 hours a week for $32,000. I have to work 16 hours a week of overtime just to make $50,000. And I'm putting my life at risk. I'm doing shift work, meaning a day shift 1 month, a night shift the next month, and a midnight shift the next month. So there would be days where I wouldn't see my family for 30 to 40 days on a midnight shift because they were in the day. So after 7 or 8 years, I loved my job to death, but I'm like, man, there's got to be more for my life. There's got to be a higher purpose. There has to be, how do I help more people than just in Florida and just where I'm working? And I started doing real estate. I researched, I'm like, man, millionaires and billionaires, if they have a part of their portfolio in real estate, there's something to that. There's something about appreciation, and if I hold an asset for a certain amount of time, and it was safe because I have an asset, I have something I can touch. It's not a stock market where somebody else controls it. And I got intrigued by it. Yeah, it can go up and down. And I started doing it part-time while I was a trooper. I was a full-time state trooper still, and I said, let me take this 15 hours a week of part-time work and let me put it into real estate. And then my return was so much greater. I was making $350,000 a year part-time, working 15 to 20 hours a week. And that's where it started. That's where it started for me, Mal. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I mean, clearly, there's a lot of people out there right now who, perhaps through the pandemic, through the furlough, through, all these times where life has just been very different, who perhaps might be thinking about, as you did, what really is this about? Is it my time to really go and do something different? Frequently, when you talk to entrepreneurs, you find that they've done something that's adjacent to what their history is. But you come from the Marines, as you say, and the force. Do you advocate that people should kind of follow their dreams, even if it's something far, far away from what they're used to? Or do you think there needs to be some kind of interest, or at least kind of passion for it before they go?
I think either is fine. I think that, like me jumping into real estate, I didn't know anything about it. And back when I started 2004, 2005, there wasn't mentors and coaches and online courses like there are now, right? So it was more of like, figure it out by messing up, or try to find a local coach or somebody who would share their secrets with you, but it doesn't really work that good. So for me, I would say I did it part-time, right? And I kept my full-time job with my job security, with my retirement. I loved what I was doing full-time. So there was no reason for me to just quit and jump into something I knew nothing about. So I think you can do it either way. I just encourage people. I'm like, like learn the business part-time. Make sure you like what you think you like. You might get in it and go, I had no idea it was like this and I hate it. Well, too bad, you already quit your job. But if you still have your job, you say, okay, I still have income coming in. My family's still provided for. Let me pivot. Let me try something else. But I still have the means to provide for my family.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's so wise. Is the, you know, there needs to be that kind of, if you can make it, and perhaps for some people it can't, that kind of gentle on ramp that leads you to where you think you want to go. And obviously that, yeah, over time, the joy and the love of the job, you know, was almost, I'm not going to say secondary, but clearly you love this job as much, if not more, than being a state trooper, and that's kind of how you're now doing this, right?
Yeah, and it's a crazy story because like I was doing it and then 2008 hit, right? And the market crashed, real estate dropped, everybody was just getting scared. And I had a bunch of properties at that time, but I felt I still had my job. So I'm like, okay, this is good. So through 2008 to 2010, everything slowed down. Everybody's dumping property. So I was like, man, I'm glad I had the security, but I'm learning through this. I had never been through something like that. And now obviously we're going through a pandemic, right? Where I think we're through it, who knows? But I'd never been through that before. But when the pandemic hit, I was already structured in a way that I could never get crushed again because I went through 2008. So 2008 to 2010, it was a learning lesson. I got my butt kicked. I held properties, I sold some, and it was painful. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. Yeah. And it was after 2010 that I actually quit my job as a state trooper and went full-time into real estate. But it was a different scenario this time because I go to a local church here. It's a big church, and they wanted to launch a youth ministry camp away from the church with like 4,000 to 5,000 students where they can send them for summer camp and they can have all these activities. And then the adults could go there. They could have weddings there. They could have marriage retreats there. So my wife, who I had just met my wife in, I don't know, I think 2012. And I was like, hey, like I actually met her at church. And I'm like, hey, like the church is asking that I help them because they know I knew real estate and they know I know how to negotiate. Like, let's broker a deal with the church to buy a property. And it was a $10 million property. So that was me and my wife's first, we weren't even married yet. And she's like, I'm on board. I'm on board. So we put a $10 million deal together, actually bought it for 6.1. They own it still today. But a year into that process of launching it, about a year in, they're like, hey, we're going to transition this into a rehab facility because there's not enough money coming in to actually support the $6.1 million. I said, I totally understand. So they transferred it. Well, when they were transferring it, they said, hey, listen, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
And in the drop of a hat, Mal, my wife and I, over $100,000, lost our job overnight. Like the CEO came in at 9:30 a.m. By 5 o'clock, I had keys turned in. And we were standing there like, can't move back to where we were from because we had no proof of income, right? We had no jobs. We just got fired and had a house here, which we really didn't know. We just moved out here to help them. So I can understand like your listeners, like maybe it's a small transition like we talked about, but maybe it's you got fired during COVID. Maybe you got fired because of downsizing. Maybe tech has taken over a lot more jobs now. We know that, right? And robots and all this stuff. So maybe you got dropped on your head like we did. And guys, we felt it. But guess what? I was miserable at that other job. We were working 80 to 90 hours a week. And it was a grind. It was me and my wife. And so when we got fired, it was hurtful because we felt like we were done wrong. But at the same time, it was such a blessing, Mal, because I was like, we're going to sit for 30 days. We're not going to make a rash decision because we got fired. We're going to sit and we're going to think about it. We're going to pray about it. And we're going to figure out what is the right step. Like, I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to go back to where I came from and go back 2 years and go like, how do we move forward and what are we both passionate about? Let's have a conversation. So we did, we sat for 30 days and before 30 days even hit, my wife looked at me one day. She's like, you were like all into real estate, weren't you, back in the day before I met you? I said, yeah. She's like, did you like it? I said, I loved it. And she's like, I have a design degree. I love staging houses. I love colors and design and rearranging houses and knocking walls down. Like, what if we did it together? And it was like a light bulb went off. And we've been doing it ever since. And we are loving it. We are crushing it. But it happened in two scenarios. One was, I got to learn slowly the first time. And then the second time, it was like, I didn't have a choice. It was like, hey, pivot now or get crushed.
And this is what they always say about kind of, they call it luck, is where kind of preparation meets opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like those years with a preparation, and
That's
then
right.
this moment in time, which could have been the worst moment, and for many people would perhaps have flawed them, is actually that like, well, actually, let's look at the opportunity and let's see what we can build. So it's a fantastic story. Congratulations on everything you've built since. I think there are a lot of listeners, as you say, some may be feeling that right now, may have felt that in the very recent past. But it is that, when you're at the bottom, the opportunity, well, it's only one way up, right?
That's it. And you just got to go for it. You have nothing to lose at that point, right?
Quite. And so then, so that's happened and you've got the idea now. Again, it's still a big step to go from that great idea to like, we've got the skills here, to then building that through. Yeah. What would you say was kind of the most important thing? So thinking people who are thinking about starting up or, who've got that idea now, what's the most important thing to make sure that you've got a successful business coming down the track?
Just take a step. I teach our students all the time, and I see so many people sitting or talking or running their mouths, right? Like, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this next week. I'm like, what are you doing right now? Like, I want to give $1,000 to my church. What are you doing right now with the money you do have? Like, I want to launch this company. I'm like, what assets or what can you do right now? Well, I don't have any money. Okay, what can you do that's for free? You can YouTube research, you can Google research, you can reach out to people. Like, I didn't just jump back into real estate overnight. I started making phone calls to people I knew from 4 or 5 years ago, like, hey, are you still in the business? Hey, are you lending money? Are you this? Are you, hey, I'm gonna stay over here in Tallahassee and not go back to Jacksonville because the market's better over here than it was back there. Hey, you want to partner up on some deals? Yeah, I'd love to partner up. It's too hot in Jacksonville. I'd love the deals just fly off the shelves, but in Tallahassee, there's a lot more available, and it's conversation. So for me, it's take a step every day. I don't care if it's tiny step, but at least you're going in the right direction, right? For me, I always build my goal out first. Like, I want to do 10 houses a year, right? Boom, that's my goal. Now I have to build out, how do I get there in 365 days?
Yeah.
And I break it down into, if I do this every quarter, I'll hit it. If I do this every month, I'll hit it. And if I do this every week, I'll hit it. And if I do this every day, there's no way I can't hit that mark. I just have to take a step every day and just be dedicated to it.
So important. And I think that there's a lot of ideas out there, isn't there? And there's always this thing about everybody's got this kind of idea. I've got this business in me, but it's only the application. It's eating that elephant one chunk at a time and looking at okay, I've got to do this today. If I'm going to do this week, and if this week comes, then this month, this year. So I think that's so important. Anybody listening out there, really, really important. If you can set your goals, understand where you want to get to, but then it's day by day, almost hour by hour.
Yeah. And it's not even like the 1 year isn't my goal. My goal is lifetime of whatever, freedom, financial freedom, more time with my family. That's like the big goal. But if I do this every day, that's going to happen. And I feel like so many people, they want it right now. Like I have so many people, I want to be a millionaire in real estate. I'm like, $1 million is nothing. Like, it is zero. Like, if you're thinking that low, which is great to have a goal, right? Start there. But like, we all want it, but what are you willing to do to go after it every single day?
And it is that stretch as well, isn't it? You can have, because, sometimes for whatever reason, and as you say, you're doing great and you're getting 350K per year and all that sort of thing, but then something can happen and that changes the game. So actually, what's further on from that million? Or, so how do you keep challenging yourself? Because if you do set a low goal and you're only doing the bare minimum, it as well. You're not working hard enough at it. So you've got to double or triple it up. Brilliant. Listen, as I say, it's so important. And in terms of sort of the marketing side, so your product is all about the property. How have you built this? Again, great name. And obviously the reputation that you've built up and so on. Do you spend time inside your brand? Do you view that as a really critical piece?
it's a huge piece. And not just in real estate, but in other businesses as well. The marketing, the brand, it's for me, I don't even look at it. It's for right now, right? For me, my branding is for the future. Like every ad I run, this person might not be ready to sell their house today, right? But that ad, the 4 or 5 ads that I'm running about, we buy houses and we want to buy your house and sell us your house for cash and get an offer in 48 hours. Like that's when people see that branded in my territories every day. I'm consistent. My colors are the same. It's the same kind of pictures. It's the same lighting in the pictures. It's the same branding. For me, it's more of a long-term play. Like I'm in real estate long-term. I'm not in this to see if it works for a year. I'm in this good, bad. The real estate market's up and down right now. Right now, it's a seller's market. They're selling $40,000, $50,000 over asking price. I'm still in the game. Yeah. I just have to pivot and I have to do different things. But if my brand, like you're saying, is already known, when that person is ready to sell their house in a year, man, this Paul guy, his Flippin Experts ads keeps popping up. I'm going to go see if he'll buy it, right? Because they've seen it every day for 365 days this year. Yeah. So yeah, Mal, branding is everything for every company we have, and being consistent in it, and being like, even my ads, being consistent and running consistent ads all the time. Not just, I mean, if you only have $1,000 and you can only do it, for $20 a day or whatever that number might be, or $30 a day, do it.
Yeah.
You might not have the $3,000 a month they want you to put towards it. That's okay. Start small, but if it's still getting out there every day for your territory, you're getting known even though you don't know it.
And I think you're absolutely right. You're talking about the consistency and coherence. Yeah. The brand that people see, it builds trust, and selling is trust. You've got to build this relationship, and particularly, in these times when everybody's remote from each other, they've got to build that trust. They've got to believe you. And if you don't, it's the simple things like you say about colors. It's like, like the words that you use, that repetition just gives that reassurance and makes people believe. Whereas if you are, if things are coming at people from all different colors with the same name, they just don't, it's just not as trustworthy, is it? I
mean, Mal, I'm looking to your upper right between your face and your logo every 2 seconds. That's branding, right? That's, and I'm looking at everything you have above you, and I'm looking at your Twitter thing down here. Why? Because you're branding right now, and you're being consistent, and you're showing this is who I am. So when I see light blue and that pinkish color, I know who to link that to. Yeah. And look at Nike, look at Adidas, look at all these different brands. Some of them are, Pepsi's known by 2 colors. Like, that's McDonald's what it's all about.
Great one. It's just, you see those arches, you're just like, there's McDonald's. Yeah. And almost you don't even know you're driving. And you're just like,
that's right.
Suddenly.
Yeah. And you know what McDonald's stands for, right? Yeah. Their burger, their kind of fries, their kind of milkshakes. You know what quality you're getting because of the brand. That's the only way you would know.
Absolutely. And it's like that shorthand. And I always think of it as, it's a shorthand for your promise, right? It's a shorthand for your mission. And when people see that icon, or they see the color scheme, as you say, they see the font constellations, then what they're getting is that promise. And they know that you've got to deliver on it.
I literally have realtors that know my name, meaning Flippin Experts. And when I do a listing on a property, they fight over it because they know the quality of craftsmanship inside the house and outside the house. They know when that house goes to inspection, if they find anything, it might be 1 or 2 things that are, if a customer wants this adjusted, that I'm going to fix it, because I turn a product that I would move my family into. And it's known, and people are like, well, I understand that, but, and they all want that right away. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm getting deals from 5 years ago from people who bought from me that just haven't, they're in that 5-year transition now and they want to move again. They're like, hey, Paul, I don't want to use a realtor. Can you do this for me? Can you do my renovation? Can you make it pretty again? And I'm like, just because branding.
Yeah. And what you're doing right now, so anybody listening who is starting out, this is important right now.
Yes.
Is getting that brand together, understanding what you are transmitting through it, and making sure it's consistent, and making sure that it speaks the truth of what you're going to deliver.
And Brilliant. Start it right away. I think that was one of my problems when I started one of my first companies. I didn't start branding my first year. Right. And I wish I would have. Why? Because that's proof of concept. I can show you before and pictures of work I've done, and you go, oh my gosh, this guy's good, versus I have no Facebook, I have no Instagram, I have no website. I could have been creating that, and that's my portfolio that I show clients, that I show buyers and sellers, I show realtors. So I would say even that, like, start it sooner than later.
Yeah.
You can always adjust it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's their discovery as well. I'm sorry to go across it. It's exactly, you will show them absolutely as the active, but then these things just travel. People will search for stuff and they'll find it. And like you say, it just needs to be showing up every time as you and authentically you.
Yes. Yeah,
and that's the critical piece. Listen, I could spend hours chatting to you all about this sort of stuff. So thank you for saying that. But we must think about sort of wrapping up pretty soon. But in between, I just wanted to fire some quick questions at you, as we do with all of our guests. Looking back and thinking about when you set up Flippin Experts, what do you wish you knew then that you know now?
Ooh, just be in it for the long haul. I expected immediate results every single month, every single ad, every single marketing thing I did. I wanted results every time, and be okay with it taking time. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't roll it out till they think it's perfect. Roll it out sooner and then get feedback from people. So for me, I think just rolling it out faster, even though it wasn't perfect, it allowed me to learn from what wasn't perfect, and experts looking at it and saying, hey, what about this? What about that? Hey, I'm seeing this. And I reach out to experts. Like, I'm not a marketing guru. I have 4 people that will do it for me and that are experts and that love it. I hire them. I'm not the guy, I'm telling you right now, but I know to hire the right person.
So playing to your strengths, really important, knowing where your gaps are and getting an expert in. I'm absolutely, totally, exactly the same. But also I love that kind of, and there's a great phrase that comes up so often in entrepreneurial settings, which is, don't let perfection get in the way of better. Just do it. Just get better, make something happen, and then perfection can come. 80% is better than nothing. Just get on.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Make money. Yeah,
exactly. And then you've got some stuff to put back in. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice. I mean, for me and my wife say it all the time. It's like, take a step every day, and it's never failed me. Even it's like going to the gym when you don't want to, but you want the body, you want the health that comes with it. For me, I have days where I make enough money. Like, I'm like, I could take a month, a year, whatever, however much time I want off and walk away. But that's not how I'm built. I'm built for making it better and providing more jobs for more people and all that. So for me, it's just staying in the fight every single day, whether I want to or not.
Yeah. Okay. That's brilliant. Is there anybody that you look up to as a sort of inspiration? Anybody that's kind of sort of set that up there and you followed through?
I like, for my industry, Chip and Joanne Gaines, they're kind of like the leaders in this industry, with Magnolia, and they went from fixer upper to getting a network to owning multiple shows to a line in Target and Walmart and all these different, like, I just like seeing how they've taken something. They almost didn't even get their very first show. Like, that's how crazy it was. And they did something at the very end of it, and the producer was like, this is awesome. So for me, I like how they took something just from a TV show and built it into owning an entire network with 20 shows on it, and then multiple brands. They employ thousands of people, and they're still wholesome. They still love their family. They still take time off. They still care about other people. So I kind of look up to people like that, people who give back to the community, to others. I love that.
That's superb. Thank you for that. And what's next for Flippin Experts? What's coming up?
Man, keep growing. Like I said, we've launched, I think, 3 companies this year on top of Flippin Experts.
Wow.
And one of them was COVID inspired. One of them was, market inspired. The market's so hot right now all over the United States that you can't even buy a house. Like, I have people tell me all the time, they're like, hey, I put in last 10 offers I put in on 10 different houses are all gone in the first day. And mine was $30,000 more than they even wanted. And I lost. So I'm like, okay, so how do I help those people get what they want? And when I talked to a lot of them, it was like, I really don't even want to move. I just want something nicer and newer. And I'm like, so you like your house, you like your location. Yeah, I love the schools. I'm like, so you just want to change what your house looks like. Yeah. And I'm like, so I started a company that started doing home renovations for customers.
Wow.
I mean, that's going to be over $3 million in the first year.
Wow.
Like
Congratulations.
that fast. But guess what? I didn't really go outside my stream. I already had crews that do my renovations. I only had to hire a couple salespeople, a couple reps. Not a big deal. I already had all the subs and all the merchandise. I had the flooring company, the AC company. I already hired all those people that I knew and were using for my own. So I'm like, I can easily help these other people. And at the same time, so it's just pivoting. It's just, hey, what's next? What's growing? And for me, it was more about what's the need? Like we were staging, like putting furniture in a lot of our houses to sell. And I was paying people to do that, thousands of dollars. And I'm like, what if I went and bought all the furniture and did it myself and hired 2 guys to go do it all? And a girl was going to like look at the design, and then the 2 guys were movers. I bought all the furniture for I think 20 grand, and I've already made 10 times that. And now I have investors and realtors saying, can you stage our house? Can you stage my customer's house? And I'm like, let me start a company that stages houses, right? So I'm going after the needs of the customers and the people and starting businesses based off that, but it's still in my swim lane.
Yeah, that's superb. And like you say, you've got all the networks, and I don't doubt as well that the personal brand that you've got, the brand that Flippin Experts has got, has helped to underpin a lot of that trust, hasn't it? You know, so actually people are just going, well, look, we know Paul, he's going to be great. So even if it's a new business, I trust it, and that's why the money's coming.
Mal, that's probably the most important thing you just said, because even when my company that buys houses that are in distress, right? People don't want them anymore. Somebody died, they're tore up, the roof's leaking, like they just want to dump it. You'd be surprised how much research they do on me and my company. Because who's gonna let somebody in their house to give them an offer on their house? Because how many scam artists are there out there, right? So they research, they look up my business address, they look at my business, they show up at my business and bang on the door and come in. Like they look at Paul as a person. They look at, hey, call my attorney, call the realtors I do business with, here you go. And those people are actually right, and they look at all my reviews. So yes, I've bought houses and got jobs I never would have got if I didn't have branding.
Absolutely right. And listen, it's superb. Do go, anybody listening, and have a look at it. Paul, where can they find you? How can they get in touch?
Yeah, just Flippin, Flippin. There's no G, Flippin Experts. And just go look at my website. I have social media handles. It's the same social media handle. Just go check us out. If you need something, if we can help you in any way, hit us up. We respond to that ourselves. We take that very personal. You're our customers, and if we can help you in any way, just let us know.
That's brilliant. Paul Tompkins, Flippin Experts, you've been a great guest. Thanks so much for taking time out of what must be a very, very busy schedule to speak to us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I love being here. If you ever want to have me back, I'm available. So
great stuff, man. I'm sure we will see how those businesses have gone this year. That was the Growth Execution podcast for this week with the great Paul Tompkins of Flippin Experts. Catch up with him, flippinexperts.com. That is it for this week. We will be back again next week with another great guest. And listen, thank you so much as well, listeners, for your time at the Growth Execution podcast. Have a great growth week, and we'll catch up with you again next time. All the best. Take care.